this war against Muslims is so deep. All of my perceptions of Muslims and Islam was built on these movies. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh everyone, I'm Rosalie. I am a convert to Islam. I used to work in the film industry a lot, in Hollywood and in Bollywood as well, since I was 14 years old. Now, Bollywood was more recent, but Hollywood since I was 14 years old. And I've worked in the film industry in the UK, in America, in India. I have a lot to say when it comes to the film industry, and I love the art of acting. I always really enjoyed it, but the film industry itself had an insane amount of horrible and haram things going on in the background. I found this amazing video of how Hollywood misrepresents Muslims, and I really wanted to share it with you guys because it's really, we live in a society where things like Netflix and media consumption, movies are everywhere. In the Western culture, if a new movie releases at the cinema that's Avengers or something, everyone knows about it, right? It's a big deal. It's a big part of our culture and our society. So the way that these movies represent Muslims really determines what the public opinion of Muslims are. So the media misrepresentation that happens on Muslims is not just at the news and things like that. It is in Hollywood, and I've got proof in this video. You guys are going to be so shocked. You may think, why am I showing this video to a Muslim audience? Because this kind of propaganda doesn't just affect the non-Muslims, it affects us as well. I meet a lot of people who've left the religion because of this kind of propaganda, thinking that their religion is a terrorist religion, or people that say they're Muslim because they don't want to upset their family, but they're not practicing. I'm with my good friend before I became Muslim. The first thing he said to me when I met him was, by the way, I've got a Muslim name, but I'm not practicing because I think that a lot of Muslims are terrorists. That's just the first thing he said to me when he met me, because he was so worried about me thinking badly of him because he's Muslim, he's got a Muslim name, that he would tell everyone as soon as he met them, oh no, I don't believe in that because they're terrorists and they do bad things, and how could you do bad things if you're a Muslim, and all this kind of stuff. Subhanallah. So yeah, propaganda is ingrained in us as well. We misrepresent and we judge parts of our community based on these things we see in Hollywood.
Allahu Akbar. God is great.
Hollywood has a very narrow view of Arabs. I mean, just think of every Arab character you've ever seen on screen. Think of how those characters are usually inherently connected to violence and US national security, and then ask yourself this question.
When have you seen a Hollywood film tell the story of an Iraqi during the Iraq War? Do you know any cases?
Dr. Maytha Al-Hassan, a Syrian-American journalist and scholar, asked me this question when I was researching this story. And even though I had spent the past week finding every possible film related to the portrayal of Arabs on screen, I had literally never come across a movie like the one Al-Hassan asked about. Al-Hassan explains this in her detailed report, Hawk and Hollywood, a look at the industry's decades-long history of stereotyping, whitewashing, and overall misrepresenting Arab and Muslim communities. Those misrepresentations are deeply motivated by US politics and literally influenced by the Department of Defense.
The tight relationship between the Department of Defense and Hollywood has been going on for a while.
A University of Bath investigation found that more than 800 feature films and 1,100 TV shows from 1911 to 2017 received support from the U.S. Department of Defense, which has its own entertainment liaisons. Mark Harris, the author of a book on Hollywood's partnership with the military, told The Outline, "The most that happens is favor trading. You get access to military equipment in return for a favorable portrayal." Even the CIA has its own entertainment liaisons. Al-Hassan says the film American Sniper is especially damaging to viewers' understandings of the Iraqi people and the US military's role in their country. It was the top-grossing domestic movie in 2014, and it was nominated for the 2015 Oscar for Best Picture.
And then you have TV shows that try to recreate this genre over and over again, this 24, this homeland genre.
In an attempt to flip the narrative, shows about U.S. national security and quote-unquote patriotism started featuring more Arab and Muslim characters, as long as those characters were willing to sacrifice themselves for American militarism.
Don't hurt her! You hear me? I'm coming out!
Al-Hassan calls this the good Muslim trope.
You, as a Muslim, have to be willing to die for this country, to sacrifice your life or to sacrifice your children's lives to be accepted here. Within this good Muslim, bad Muslim framework, the good Muslim was also the one that the Democratic Party ran with at the DNC convening in 2016 at the convention.
After the 2016 election, when anti-Muslim assaults were at an all-time high, Hollywood writers and showrunners grew more conscious of how they represented Arabs and Muslims in their work. Howard Gordon, the showrunner for Homeland, admitted he felt anxious about how his show might have inspired attacks against Muslims, and shows like DC's Legends of Tomorrow and The Bold Type added multifaceted Arab characters.
My Twitter bio literally reads, "Proud Muslim lesbian."
Shows similar to Homeland and 24 have continued coming out, but they haven't lasted as long as their predecessors.
We do have a more sophisticated viewing audience than, let's say, even 5 years ago. I think these audiences are sick of this formulaic, cut and paste storyline around patriotic genres. And so, although Hollywood is continuing to turn them out, it's not like these are the most popular TV shows out right now, right?
Beyond correcting Hollywood's misrepresentations, advocates like Al-Hassan want to see more original works by Arab creators themselves. Shows like the digital series East of La Brea or Hulu's Rami allow Arab and Muslim writers to tell their own stories.
Okay, subhanAllah. There's like so much I want to say. I would never get this into a YouTube video, but I think I want to start with the fact that I watched Homeland before I became Muslim, and it did influence my opinion on Muslims a lot, because the entire show is based around like terrorist Muslims. And there's this character who's a white guy who converted to Islam, and he's also a terrorist. I remember watching scenes of him secretly praying in his basement, and that always gave me a negative portrayal of prayer, because he was the bad guy, right? He was the bad guy pretending to be a good guy, and he was praying in his basement in secret. So that like that image of like praying, it put like, oh, this is what bad people do. So like all these images contributed. I remember, subhanAllah, it's really important to remember that this kind of propaganda, we can really relate to it right now because of what we see in Israel and Palestine. What we see in Palestine, what the Israelis are doing with their propaganda, the way they make all their entire society is built on teaching their people from the age of 0 that they are the superheroes and the Palestinians are evil. We see the propaganda in our own society against Muslims. We see it in our films. I've watched a lot of films because I was in the film industry. I was very passionate about films. I remember watching a film called Eye in the Sky with Helen Mirren. And I remember the whole film, subhanAllah, like looking back at this now and realizing, subhanAllah, like it makes me want to cry. The whole film is built on the fact that these poor white people have to shoot a child in order to get to the terrorists. Like the whole moral argument. There's this like child playing outside of this building with terrorists in it. And these snipers are like, no, this like plane or something. It was a long time ago, but there's something that they have to like bomb the building that's got the terrorists in. And like the whole film, they're watching these children playing by the building, knowing that these children are going to get bombed, having to decide whether to bomb the building or not. And it's like, that lady is right. When have you ever seen a film from the perspective of the Iraqi people during the Iraq War? What we know now about the Iraq War and about all the innocent people that died, when have we ever seen a film that's about their perspective? The closest we get to a moral argument when it comes to the Iraq War is looking at the view of the poor white people that have to shoot the children, that have to kill the children in order to get to the terrorists, because the children are the human shields.
Wait a minute!
They use the local Palestinian population as human shields.
This human shield argument, we see it in our own media.
Use the local Palestinian population as human shields.
These Arab human shields, this is in our own propaganda. And it's like that news article that came out recently where CNN were looking at this Israeli soldier and they were pitying him because he had to run over Palestinian people. A poor, poor soldier had to run over Palestinian people. Like, nobody's going, poor Palestinian people that got run over. Like, the closest we can get to a moral argument is feeling sorry for the white people that are killing the innocent Arabs. There's just so much that needs to be done. This war against Muslims is so deep. All of my perceptions of Muslims and Islam was built on these movies. I remember being really young and watching something called like Team America or something. I was really young. And my parents showed me something which I shouldn't be watching at that age. And it was like these puppets. And I was really young as well. And they were being really horrible about Muslims. And there's just so much out there with this kind of stuff. And this propaganda just runs deep in our society. It makes me so angry. Even from us as well, we need to know that when we're receiving that stuff, when we're watching that stuff, it doesn't represent us. It doesn't represent our communities. We are completely different to those misrepresentations that we get constantly. Anyway, inshallah, you gained something from this video. Thank you guys for watching. Assalamu alaikum.